My wife called up the Babylon, New York, which had an incinerator. She said, "How much recycling are you doing in Babylon, New York?" Oh, he says, "We love recycling here. We love recycling here." He says, "Every time we recycle a ton of waste, it allows us to burn a ton of medical waste. And we get much more money burning medical waste than we do burning municipal waste." So that's why they like recycling, because they could burn this more expensive waste. But the economic pressures, once you build this thing, is you've got to feed it, which means you also are going to feed things like newspapers, paper, plastics. Whenever there's a drop in the market, instead of sort of storing this material and overcoming the dip in the prices, it will be burnt. It will be sent to the incinerator, and it will be burnt or destroyed.
Another thing, Professor, what is the Zero Waste Initiative? You began speaking about it earlier.
Yes. In my talks, the two I'm giving, one on Monday and one on Tuesday, and I think you can get the details, I should be talking about the 10 steps to zero waste, and illustrating this with successful examples of these 10 steps from around the world. And every single step is happening somewhere. These 10 steps are fairly simple, they're cost effective, common sense, and some of them are already happening in the island. But very quickly, the 10 steps. But before I get to the 10 steps, okay, let me say an overarching principle here. To get to zero waste, we need a combination of community responsibility, which we know we can get, and industrial responsibility. This is why zero waste is more than recycling. It's more than the community. And so we have the 4 R's. We have reduce, reuse, recycle, and compost, which is community responsibility. The 4th R is redesign, and that's industrial responsibility. And in step 8, what we say to industry is, if we can't reuse it, if we can't recycle it, if we can't compost it, you guys shouldn't be making it. We need better industrial design for the 21st century. Three containers. In San Francisco, they say recycling is now as easy as 1, 2, 3. The blue container for the recyclables, the green container for the organics, the black container for the residuals. Step 3 then is composting. Step 4 is recycling. Step 5 is a network of reuse and repair facilities, setups around the island. They make money, they create jobs, they create small businesses, they're great for community development, and everything else we need for sustainability. Step 6 is aimed at the residual fraction. Step 6 is the pay-as-you-throw system. The recyclables are taken for free, the compostables are taken for free, but the residual fraction, the more you make, the more you pay. And you can organize that in different ways. In Italy, they put a chip in the bag for the residual fraction. Each time you put the bag out, you're charged. But if you don't put it out because you are not making much residuals, you're not paid anything. You don't have to pay anything. So you can save money. If you're a slob, you pay money. So that's the pay-as-you-throw. Step 7 is other waste reduction initiatives, which are going on around the planet right now. In last October, California became the first state in the United States that has banned single-use plastic bags. This is happening more and more. Bangladesh has banned plastic bags. It's all over the world.
Hawaii.
What's that?
Oahu.
Wahoo?
Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii, good, yeah. So banning, taxing, encouraging people to use reusable bags like this hotel, congratulations, and many stores and so on. And we have some wonderful examples of that. Then step 8 is what I've already alluded to. This takes the residual fraction. The residual fraction comes in plastic bags. This is operating in Nova Scotia. Residual bags come in, the bags are open, conveyor belts, more recyclables are pulled out, more toxics are pulled out, more bulky items are pulled out. The dirty organic fraction is stabilized above ground in another composting operation, so you don't produce methane, which is 25 times worse than carbon dioxide. As far as global warming is concerned. One of the drivers for getting rid of landfills is the methane problem. But we solve the methane problem by composting, clean composting to produce a product that you use, and dirty composting to stabilize the material above ground before it does the damage underground. And into this, we put the Zero Waste Research Centre, manned, we hope, by professors and students from technical colleges, universities, and they are the ones who deliver the message to industry: we need better industrial design. And then step 9 is better industrial design, and step 10 is this smaller landfill. We're going to have to back up our zero waste with a landfill, not an incinerator. But the idea is that landfill should get smaller and smaller, safer and safer as we pull out more materials in front. So those are the 10 steps. As I say, every step is operating somewhere, including Italy is now pioneering the zero waste research with some incredible results, I might say. We have the major corporations like Lavazza that sells coffee in the single-use coffee capsules. Well, this little town of Capanari was getting 83% diversion, but they were finding all these plastic coffee cups which they couldn't recycle, they're contaminated. So they wrote a letter to Lavazza that said, "We are trying to be a zero waste community and we keep finding your coffee capsules. What can we do about this?" 2 days later, Lavazza phones them up and says, "We've got to meet." And so they met. Their experts with Lavazza's experts. And the end result was, a few months ago, Lavazza announced that it's producing a capsule where it's reusable. In other words, you use it in the same machine, but instead of just throwing it away each time, the capsule can be reused, refilled, and used. The politics of no and the politics of yes. In Italy, no incinerator, no discarica, no landfills, no incinerators. Very, very passionate, very organized, from one end of Italy to the other, organized against incinerators. But it was the politics of no. But then you saw the politics of yes. Sì, rifiuti zero. Yes to zero waste. Yes to sustainability. Yes to recycling. Yes to reuse. Yes to composting. Yes to sustainability. Yes to the planet. It's so positive. And the mayors that invest in zero waste in Italy, and they are so proud. It fits in beautifully in Italy with pride in their communities. Italy is a land of 9,000 communities. They have their own history, they have their own culture, they have their own olive oil, their wine, vino, which I drink a lot of, their cheese, and they're so proud of their communities, and zero waste fits right into that. Just in Barbados, you're proud of your tourism, you're proud of your beautiful fish, your swimming. Zero waste fits into tourism, fits into a beautiful island, and whereas this incinerator like be a jagged wound, a wound into the side of your beautiful island, a really bad example, very bad example, very negative.
But do you think you can sway government to your zero waste plan?
I think they'll love it. If they're honest, I suspect that when you see something as ridiculous as this plan, and anybody can go and look at it, Barbados Underground. But let's say it again: free land, 30-year guarantee of waste, 30-year guarantee of electricity sales, no taxes on anything, profits or on your shareholders. I mean, it's such a giveaway. When you see what is being given away, either you've got to say that these people are totally incompetent, totally unaware of what's happening in the world today, with Europe rejecting incineration, with them not having built an incinerator in the United States since 1997, or there's corruption involved. I mean, I don't know which is which, and you can't tell from a distance the difference between incompetence and corruption. But why is the whole process in secret? Because if you read this memorandum, it's stupid. And they know, the incinerator industry knows that to build an incinerator, you've got to do it quickly before the public finds out about it. Because the moment the public starts to see this information here, the moment the media and the citizens hear my talks in the next 2 days, there will be anger at what's happened here. And my advice to these politicians is get out of this as fast as possible. Get out of this as fast as possible. You have, whether you like it or not, you've got yourselves involved in a gigantic scam which could cost this island millions and millions of dollars and get you nowhere. An issue with incineration. The problem with mercury from incinerators, and for that matter power plants, is the mercury comes out, it gets into the sediments of ponds and lakes, and is converted by microorganisms to methyl mercury. And then that methyl mercury bioconcentrates up the aquatic food chain, and by the time you get to the large fish, then that shouldn't be eaten by a pregnant woman, because then it would cause fetal damage. That's the scenario. And it's amazing, if you think of that scenario for a moment, that's the scenario of the Environmental Protection Agency. Meanwhile, we have the dental industry putting mercury amalgams straight into our mouths, okay, and we have the CDC for years permitted the use of organic mercury as a preservative in vaccines. And it turned out that we were injecting into a baby's bloodstream about 200 times more mercury than we were allowed to eat. So here's the EPA saying this is how much mercury you should eat from your fish, etc., how much fish you should eat. And then over here we have the Center for Disease Control condoning the exposure to newborn babies, this the thimerosal in vaccines. They've reduced the amount of thimerosal used, but it amazes me that any medical authority ever allowed it, because if the concern is about the impact of mercury on the fetal and the infant brain, then injecting it straight into a baby's bloodstream. So I think this is a word of warning here. Those who trust their governments, be wary when there are economic interests involved. Be very, very wary. Because those health agencies and those environmental agencies, by and large, are not there to protect the public. They're there to protect industry. They are to establish the ground rules so the industry can make its huge profits. And when you get to the point that those profits might be jeopardized by a ruling like the one you just mentioned, then their friends in the Supreme Court will make sure that they'll find a loophole. And I don't say that lightly, by the way. The United States EPA started a risk assessment from pressure from the paper industry in 1992, a reassessment of the EPA's standard for dioxin, for cancer, its cancer risk assessment. They started that in 1992. They essentially finished in 1994, but here we are in 2015 still waiting for the final version, because the industry, the waste industry, the beef industry, the paper industry, and the chemical industry are preventing the EPA from doing its job.